What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome to another video. It's currently 9:52 p.m. on Sunday the 15th of October, and we have a new week starting tomorrow. Obviously, a lot of events have been happening over the weekend. This week that's just gone was probably one of my most accurate weeks yet, so that's nice to see. So I'm just gonna dive straight into it. We'll have a look at what happened last week. You can see we opened, traded lower, trading into this wick, and then we kind of just launch padded off of that and started trading back into this range here. If we drop down to the daily, we can have a better look. You'll see that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were all down days, so we ran right into this sell side liquidity residing here, took out those stops, and then as soon as that liquidity was grabbed, we traded aggressively higher and started running towards these levels here and here. Now, seeing this big up movement like this already indicates to me that we're likely going to see a continuation of such behavior in the new week, so that's something to consider. But yeah, overall the week was pretty accurate in terms of opening, creating the high on the Monday. You can see we fell, very high resistance as we this is a high resistance move to the downside. So as we created the low, you can see how much high resistance we were going through in order to get down to this level. And that is common for bullish markets. If we're bullish, we should find resistance coming down and we should have no resistance going up. And that's why we see such an easy move right through, chopping right through these highs here, and then creating the high on Friday. So the high wasn't created on Monday, it was created on Friday. But what I'm saying is that the way we created this swing, manipulation came down, grabbed those stops, and then from then on it was an easy, very smooth move up towards the upside because we are bullish, and I am anticipating a continuation with the bullish behavior. So yeah, pretty cool week. I do recommend you go check out some of the videos from last week because, like I said, it was very accurate. But we'll get straight to the weekly, and I'm going to just mark out what I have my eyes set on. So in terms of targets for the new week, we have this buy side liquidity resting up here. I want to see if we can reach into that. We obviously have this swing high above here that I'm expecting us to trade into, and then we have to remember that there's a fair value gap here, so I'm going to mark out a weekly fair value gap. So I'm going to mark out the low and the high of it. Let me not use array though. I'm going to use simply just black lines. So that's the low of the weekly fair value gap, that's the high. So now that these levels are on our charts, we know that in the low time frames, once we reach these levels, we can anticipate it to, if we do trade up into this weekly fair value gap, I'd like to see it find support on this level, and then that would again encourage and point to the likelihood of us trading into the buy side liquidity that I just delineated here. So that's the reason I'm going to have these levels on the chart. This is weekly low. This is weekly fair value gap high. So that's all cool. We can see that we do have a fair value gap down here, but the fact that we traded through it and traded away from it says to me that there's likely no need for us to come back down into this range, especially since we're bullish, and especially since we rebalanced with this wick here. So let me just make this a different color. This here is what you call a rebalance, because this wick got traded through with this wick, touched the close of this candle, and then we had a very aggressive movement away from it. So that's telling me that we're likely going to continue to the upside, and that this range is now rebalanced, so to speak. So let's drop down to the daily where we can have a better look, and you'll see that we have that sell side liquidity that I delineated earlier that has been tagged here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grey it out like so, and you can see we came down, grabbed those stops, and then traded higher. Now there is actually a breaker here. We have one here, this swing low, this swing high, this swing low. That creates a breaker move, and when I drop down to the low time frame, we'll be able to see that much more clearly. So let's go down to the 4 hour, and you can see this movement here, low, high, lower low, and low here, and then we break higher. This is also a breaker, low, high, lower low. So we've got this level here, and we've got this level here that I want to keep our eyes on, but you can see that this level is within this range. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this range specifically, draw that out, and I want to see if price can come down and create the low within this range within the new week. Now the reason for this is because if we are to move higher and we are to have an up close week, then I'd like to see the low get made below some kind of sell side liquidity. So we do have sell side liquidity residing below here, which is where this fair value gap is and where this breaker is. So, and if I go back up to the daily, you'll see that this breaker is what I was saying here in terms of we've got a low, high, and then low, low. So like this here is generally the area which I've got my eyes focused on. So that's why I've got that delineated like so. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm also going to mark out the 50% level of it, because technically this is a bearish order block, and when we trade through bearish order blocks, they should then act bullishly. So that's another reason why if price does manage to reach down into it, I'd expect buying to be I'd expect it to act bullishly and therefore allow us to be looking for buys on dollar and obviously sells in opposing pairs. There we go. We have the 50% level of that delineated now. And again, there'd be reason for it. It wouldn't surprise me if price did come down and grab liquidity from here to then push higher. Now, the reason price may not want to do that is because you see how this low has failed to take out this low, and that to me shows that this whole gap may act as a breakaway gap. Now, ICT has made a recent video explaining how he'd like to see this act as a breakaway gap, so we just really want to see price trade down into it, and I can understand why, considering this low didn't take out this low. If we drop down to the hourly, we can have a better look. You can see how price is stacking on itself. So we have this order block came higher, price is traded into this order block, traded higher, we're coming back down into this order block. So you can see it's kind of defending this level below here. So although I've marked it out, I would it's not going to be the end of the world if we don't manage to reach down into there. I'm just saying that it's a possibility that it could. But again, the fact that we failed to take out this low, and you can see how price is constantly stacking on itself, all of these order blocks can be used as potential buying points. So we have an order block open there, we have a bullish order block open here, and then you can see we're currently trading on this one here. But what I'm going to do, I think on the 4 hour. On the 4 hour, we have this bullish order block, so I'm just going to mark this out, although we gapped. But I'm going to mark this out as a bullish order block, knowing that if price comes down into here, depending on how it treats it and if it finds resistance within it, or support, so to speak. If it finds support as we're trading down into this, I want to see the 50% level get respected, which would then hint to me that we likely don't need to come back down into this area at all. So you can see there's different points where I want to see price trade to, but I am going to wait until Monday's trading before wait until Monday's over before I do any kind of trading this week, purely because again, geopolitical events, and yeah, like I said, it could come down here, but like with this low, failing to take out this, it's likely it might not even want to go all the way down there, which means it would create a very shallow low of the week if that is the case. So anyway, we'll go back to the 1 hour. Now that we have this 50% delineated, we can see how price treats it. We have a nice little volume imbalance right there. Price may want to draw down into that. And we have a nice fair value gap down here below this low. So there is a reason that price may want to grab those sell stops that I was talking about that may be residing down here. They may just simply grab that from over here and then use that to run up higher and take out this swing high here. And remember, this is the beginning of that massive weekly fair value gap. So overall, I'm bullish on dollar. In terms of where the low is going to form, I'd like to see it form in here. It can form down here, but I think it's best we wait for Monday and we keep an eye on the news, because there's a lot going on and it's just best to stay safe. One thing to recognize, you see how we traded to that 50% level of this wick, just as I called out last week, which is beautiful to see. Look how we respect that, and we can expect again some kind of pullback and run on stops, which is why I have this range delineated once again. So that's one thing to take note of. Also, where the -1 level is, just above this swing high, -2 level, we have that buy side liquidity from all the way over here. So little things like this always just add to my expectations for price action. So that's just one thing to take into consideration. Let's go to GBP USD. We'll start with the weekly. and I have my eyes obviously set. If I'm bullish on dollar, that means I'm bearish on I'm bearish on pound. So I'm expecting this swing low to get taken and this swing low to get taken. So I'm going to draw this out. Oh, let's make this a ray actually. I very much expect this sell side liquidity to get grabbed. And I do want to see this sell side liquidity get grabbed eventually as well. Whether it will happen this week, I'm not sure. But our first target is definitely going to be the sell side. And I'm also going to mark out the 50% level of this wick because I'd like to see how price reacts to that consequent encroachment. So I'm going to mark that out here. I'll make that black. And I'm going to write CE for consequent encroachment. There we go. And I want to see, and overall, I just want to see price start to draw lower towards that consequent encroachment. Now, if price does draw lower, that means that this candle is then an order block, meaning that this open should act sensitive. So we can mark that out for now. And then when we drop down to the daily, we should be able to get a better look at what we can expect in terms of buy side potential before the rest of the week hopefully goes on and delivers to the downside. Now, one thing to notice, we traded to the 50% level, just above the 50% level of this fair value gap, rejected it, and started trading lower aggressively. So that means now I'm expecting us to run down into this low and this sell side liquidity. Here's the daily. You can see we traded through a breaker, high, low, higher high, break lower, traded back up into that range, this wick here. Beautiful, which is why now I want to see this range. I want to see this one get left open. Now you're probably thinking, how come you didn't want to see the one on dollar get left open? Maybe I should, to be honest. But overall, in terms of GBP, I don't want to see price trade back into here again because of the rebalancing that happened on this wick and this wick. This, remember, is that opening of the anticipated order block. This black line is the opening of the anticipated bearish order block. Remember, we're anticipating this low to get taken. So this will then become a bearish order block, meaning that this open should act sensitive, meaning that if price does manage to reach up into it, I'd expect it to be very sensitive at that level. So we have that delineated nicely. I'll just make that a little bit thicker. And yeah, I do anticipate price to trade back into this range. You'll see that that order block is also 50% of this wick, which is nice to see. We have relatively equal lows down here. These are definitely going to get ran. Let's go to the 4 hour. We have another bearish order block here. And you can see that lines up perfectly with this wick here. So this is all nice to see, to be honest. It's all very supportive of our analysis. Now we have an inversion fair value gap resting here. Let's make this red. And the reason I want to point this out is because it traded on the downside, traded on the upside, it failed to show support, traded on the downside, and we saw resistance here. So if price does manage to draw back up into this range, what do we want to see? We want to see it act as resistance. Why else do we want to see it act as resistance there? Because remember, this black line delineates that bearish weekly order block that we're anticipating to get created. So I've got my eye set on this area as a potential high of the week. Obviously I have a swing up there, nice fair value gap there, and there's this fair value gap, and obviously this bearish order block. So yeah, I do expect price to probably draw up here before moving lower. Another thing to take note of, you'll see how this swing high, you see how this swing high took out the stops above here. That's another reason I don't want to see this level get traded to, because if price takes out this high now, it would, to me, it would signify something different, as in market direction, and I'd expect a continuation to the upside. This high taking out this level, these levels here, I see as like a defense. So this level is now defended. So this push lower, and you can see how we're reacting to this level, is saying to me that if we are to continue lower, this level is now defended, and I want to see again this inversion fair value gap continue to act as an inversion fair value gap and act bearishly for pound. But overall, bearish expectations, sell side liquidity rests in here, consequent encroachment reached in here, and if we're moving absolutely crazy this week and with geopolitical events, that is very possible, then we may want to reach down into the sell side liquidity residing below these lows here. Finally, let's go on to euro. Euro, obviously, same thing as pound, pretty much. I'm expecting a continuation to the downside. We don't have a direct imbalance on the weekly or anything, so there is a potential for a considerable expansion on euro, because euro is going to show a heavy amount of weakness because it's going to want to draw into these lows here. And then obviously we have this swing low here, but I reckon that will get traded to quite easily. Now we have this wick here, so I'm going to mark out 50% of that as consequent encroachment. Price may want to stop there. And consequent encroachment is one of those things where the more you identify them in your charts, like actively go and look for it, and the more you can appreciate it when price trades to it and turns around at that level, just like we saw on the DXY last week. So that's why I'm always marking out my consequent encroachment. Here we have the same thing on pound, except you'll see that euro actually traded right through the fair value gap and then aggressively away from it, showing heavy bearishness, the fact that we can trade through fair value gap and then rebalance with this wick and this wick. This range to me now should be untouched. What do we have? An anticipated bearish order block. We anticipate this to be a weekly bearish order block, and because of that we can mark out the open of that, and this should act as a sensitive area. The same thing as what we just did on pound. What do we have? Beautiful fair value gap. Where is this lined up with? 50% level of that. So what do we want to see? Ideally, if we are going to trade up into this fair value gap, I'd like to see the 50% of level of it respected, because that means bearishness, which is what we want to see in terms of bias. Now price can trade through it, but in terms of daily closing, I want it to close below that 50% level, and I want to see it turn around at this level. Furthermore, we have a breaker here, a high, a low. Wait, let me just go to the lower time frame. Yeah, we have a swing high, swing low, higher high, and a break lower. So as soon as this level got closed here, this little swing high, although it's quite short term, I do see this as a breaker, which lines up beautifully with our fair value gap and another fair value gap on the lower time frame, plus this swing high where we can imagine buy side is residing. This fair value gap can get left open. Again, this is that level that I said I didn't want to see price come back to. So that's all supportive of that. Also, buy side has been tagged 3 times here. This swing high has been taken here. 2 times, sorry. So that buy side's grabbed there. What color should we make it? Buy side's been grabbed there. Buy side's been grabbed once again there, and then we turned away. And remember, we are bearish. So if price does trickle up there, it will probably have a very high resistance move into this range, where I'd then expect it to find resistance, grab this buy side liquidity just above this swing high, and then I'd like to see some aggressive selling happening and running into that sell side here, that consequent encroachment off that wick, and eventually the sell side liquidity down there if we are to get overzealous, as ICT likes to say. So yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. I do appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.